Welcome to Talking Giants presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. Today's show, we have, I thought it was a pretty cool interview. Not a very long one, but a cool interview with Jamar Chaney, who, if you're not familiar, was with the Giants coaching staff during the OTAs and the Bill Walsh, coaching diversity program. So I thought it was pretty cool. He had some, he actually played for the Eagles and had some pretty bad memories for us, but, there is a connection there. And he recognized my area code when I called him because he's right around from the same area. So how about that? But we're also going to talk about the Giants' biggest areas needs for improvement. So I actually, this is low key a pretty important episode for like the last episode of June. Justin, how are you? And Justin, you have some news. How are you?
Oh yeah, Bobby Skinner. I have some news. Jamar Chaney is a well-traveled man. Apparently knows your area code, which is cool. It's a cool interview. Looking forward to that. And I was sick. You questioned my character. How do I sound? Do I sound good?
Yeah, you sound good. I mean, I know you sounded good anyways. You just kind of like faked your voice for that.
No, I did not. I sounded bad. I got a lot of messages.
I could fake my voice too to make it sound like I'm sick.
I really did sound like
many
Kermit
days
the Frog.
of school.
Really did sound like Kermit the Frog there for a hot sec. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm still battling through. My news is, I guess we'll just get right to it. I didn't really want to say it. I didn't really want to publicize it for just the general public, because I genuinely feel like I
hate those posts, and I did one, but I hate those posts. So,
well, I wanted to do it privately just for my friends and family to know like what my next step is in life. And my next step in life is that I am a full-time employee of John Boy Media. So Talking Giants, and what will eventually be Talking Football. We're gonna beg you and plead you and really ask you nicely when we start doing some Talking Football stuff, Bobby and I, that you kind of come along with us. If you enjoy what we do for Giants stuff, then come along with us when we do football stuff. So that's what I've been hired to do. I'm hired to kind of just continue growing Talking Giants, but really, let's get some more football coverage going, which will happen soon. It's not, Bobby and I, we are in the early stages.
This season, training camp, basically.
Yeah, training camp, basically. So yeah, I'm excited. I kind of started this whole thing because of Jimmy and Jake. No, not because of you, Bobby. I started, when did you start Simple Man Radio? Like what year?
2018, because I mean, it was like right before Saquon got drafted.
All right, well then I started, in 2018 as well. Now, obviously 2018, I would say Bobby and I both can agree that there has been basically 2019, 2020, and then 2021. There's been 3 years where I think Bobby and I, we can say that we've been doing it right. And then the first year we're both, 2018 for both of us, we were doing it wrong, where we were just putting up podcast episodes and then that's it. Everybody has to go through that. But yeah, started in 2018 because of Jimmy and Jake, John Boy Jake, Talking Yanks, before they were even John Boy Media. And, long story short, 3 years later, we're here and I'm an employee for the company and I'm getting paid, which is kind of cool. So let's go, Bobby Skinner. Let's continue to work.
I'm excited. I got really excited over the weekend because we're taking a week off next week, but for that we have to get some stuff done this week to prepare for that so we can have some evergreen episodes to put out. Which I can't really announce any of them until they're done because they're interview based. But I got me really excited for training camp. And like we're literally 1 month away from training camp. I mean, I was watching our Camp Battles episode, which is our first episode on YouTube, and your face is like basically eating your camera, and mine. I had short hair at the time. I'm getting very excited for training camp. And when you're listening to this, it's 1 year anniversary of my dog being dead.
Oh, geez. You had to throw that in there. A lot of happy things going on, and you had to throw Lucy.
And the day before you're listening to this, 11 years since Billy Mays died.
Oh, geez. You had to throw it in there. That's who you are.
I'm very excited for the 4th of July.
Very excited for the 4th of July. 4th of July mailbag. A lot of fun coming up.
Which, by the way, that tweets out. So if you have your 4th of July mailbag questions, go to at Talking Giants on Twitter and ask them. So
non-football related questions.
Yeah. I think the one last year, the all things Giants, was like, what did we like and dislike the most about each other? That one really got going. There's already been one really good one, which is
if you're a fictional character.
Well, that one's a good one, but the Giants draft, pick your starting five for a Giants basketball team, which I'm going to put together some parameters for that, and I'll let you and Danny know ahead of time.
Sure.
And we're going to draft our teams, and we'll see who wins. So that's pretty cool. Any other things we need to get to hit on before we get into the areas of improvement segment?
I guess. Well, I mean, I have to thank people. I mean, I wouldn't have a job at the company if it weren't for everybody. So
You don't have to thank anybody. It's all you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thanking the people who listen and kind of support us because it's kind of crazy. That we're here. Do we have any new patrons? No.
No new patrons, and thank you to all the haters and losers, of which there are many.
There you go.
All right.
Improvements.
All right. So this is actually like an inch. Like last year, we probably would have saved this segment for training camp because there wasn't really a real training camp. But the areas of improvement for the Giants, and it's not simply like score more points. Like obviously they need to improve on offense, but it's just some like little like micro like points to get on. And here's something. And I know I'm one who says stretch the offense, get it downfield, stretch it downfield, and I'm still very big on that. And Justin, you're going to talk about that a little more, and and I'll throw in my my play design stats that I was charting throughout the season. But here is something that was extremely lacking for the New York Giants in 2020, involving the running back in the passing game. It might be the most pathetic thing of the 2020 New York Giants offense when you really look at it and compare it to the rest of this year. Because even though like we weren't really producing big plays, at least when we did attempt them, we were like the best in the league at it. Like we were, most efficient. Now we didn't do it enough for the efficiency to translate into a ton of points. But where we truly were lacking was our running backs being involved in the receiving game. It was brutal.
How much money did we pay Dion Lewis? And he had 19 receptions, and whenever we did kind of throw the ball to him, remember that Tampa Bay game? How awesome of a catch that was! And
yeah, he had some good receiving, like he had some like good receiving moments, and they just did not use him. Besides, very it was few and far between, and that's with Saquon being down. Like when Saquon was healthy, we're like Dion Lewis probably going to have a pretty healthy role in this offense, and he really didn't have that, even with Saquon down.
If Dion Lewis had 20 catches with Saquon healthy, I'm like, yes, that sounds about right. But the fact that Saquon Barkley missed 75% of the season and Dion Lewis finished the season 19 catches, 30 targets. Now the crazy thing about Dion Lewis is that his yards before the target, his average depth of target, whatever you want to call it, was like 2.5 yards down the field, which is unheard of for a running back. Like usually Alvin Kamara, who gets like 0.8, who is targeted, his average depth of target is like 0.8. That's usually like very high for a running back. But I mean, it's just such a low sample size that, that one Tampa Bay catch that he had was, what was that? A 7-yard touchdown? Like I was
like the 17-yard catch versus the Eagles. That was like right on the sideline.
Yeah.
So I did a comparative of the Giants running backs receiving game compared to just the NFC East, which is 4 bad offenses. Like the NFC East consisted of 4 bad offenses, but I think 3 very different offenses, where Philly was very downfield oriented. Washington was, if you're running back, like, if you're getting a running back, if you want a PPR running back, get the Washington, get whoever Alex Smith's running back is going to be essentially.
Antonio Gibson. Yeah.
And then Dallas, which was a very like balanced offense, where it has that downfield attack, but it, has its checkdowns built in, whether it was, and they were good. They had a good offense for 5 games, and then Dak went down. They had some good games after that. So the Cowboys, their running backs had 80 catches for 531 yards on average per game. That's 5 catches, 33 yards. So nothing great, but that's all right. Like, five catches a game for your running backs is pretty decent. Washington, now this is 120 catches. 120 catches for the running back, 848 yards. That's 7.5 per game. That's a lot. That's a ton. 53 yards, 7 yards per attempt on it. And then the Cowboys had 6.6 yards per attempt on it. The Eagles, which is very downfield oriented, had 59 catches for 432 yards, which is 3.6 catches per game and 27 yards per game, 7.5 yards per catch. So they did it very little compared to the other 2 teams, but theirs were more effective, 7.5. Now here's the Giants. And I'm even going to split this without the Pittsburgh game. The Giants as a team, 62 catches. So that's 3 more than Philly. But 58 less than Washington, 18 less than Dallas, 378 yards. That's the least amount of yards by 64 yards. So they had three more catches than the Eagles, but 64 less yards. So 3.8 catches, 23.6 yards per game, 6.2 yards per catches with their running backs. Take away the Steelers game because that was Saquon involved.
Yeah.
58 catches, 304 yards. Or sorry, on a per game, like if you remove that one game and then divide by 15 times by 16, it would be 58 catches, 304 yards, 3.8 per game, 20.2 yards per catch, 5.3 yards per catch. 5.3, whereas the Eagles would have 7.5, the Redskins would have 7, the Cowboys 6.6. So in that Steelers game, Saquon had 6 catches for 60 yards. And then Wayne Gallman had one catch for 14 yards in that game. The closest game, just for a total running backs, was the Rams game, where we had 43 receiving yards for our running backs. So Saquon playing one game, and this does show the impact Saquon makes, but it's a bigger issue than just Saquon not being there, is a 31-yard differential. So just one game with Saquon, we couldn't get within – we got the closest they got with all their running backs together was 31 yards. And then Saquon, had 60 yards in the game. The closest individual was actually week 2, Dion Lewis, who had 36 yards, which is 24 yards less than Saquon. And if you think about that, it wasn't really involving the running back in the passing game. It was one, remember Daniel Jones was getting tackled and he flipped the ball to Dion Lewis and there was a bunch of yak.
Yes.
So that wasn't like trying to involve your running back. And then I think there was either 1 or 2 in that last drive of the game where they were driving, they're playing off coverage, and they just got the ball out quick to Dion.
Yep.
So it wasn't like that. They had 4 games where their running backs as a whole had less than 10 receiving yards. The most yards per catch in a game was Steelers 10.5, and then the Ravens, they had 3 catches for 35 yards, which is 11.6. So only one game they had more yards per catch. It wasn't even just the total amount, like the volume. It was per game or per catch. It was bad. Every other game it was lower. Saquon finished with 60, and just one game, Dion Lewis had 19 catches for 127 yards in the entire season. Wayne Gallman had 27 catches, 114. Wayne Gallman was the feature back essentially the entire season, and he had 54 more receiving yards than Saquon Barkley had in one game. And so, and I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded in this. I went to the last Giants game of the season, Dallas, and I'm like, I'm just going to chart what the running back does on every receiving play. It was pretty pathetic, man. It was pretty pathetic. So I'm going to call check swings, which is just like a swing, like it's a check. It's a check down. It doesn't mean it was thrown to him. It was just a check down. And then I'll have check curl, which is basically like, when they run like through the middle of the line and then curl at like 3 yards.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do a little button hook. Yeah,
it's like check down. It's like a safety valve. It's not like involving. It's like if there's
and that's good. And that's good for Daniel Jones. It's good for Daniel Jones since he doesn't work from the sideline. He works from middle of the field, like down the field and then down.
Yeah, deep to short. Which I like. If you're going to use your check downs, that's where you should have it. But it's like that was all. Here's everyone. Check swing route, block and release, play action out, block, play action out, check swing, block and release, play action out, block and release, check curl, Alfred Morris out wide 5-yard curl, block and release, block, check swing, check curl, play action out. Another Wayne Gallman out wide 5-yard curl. So at least they got him lined up out wide. Check swing, block, check curl, block, check swing, block, play action out, check curl. Not a single one of those routes was designed to have the running back in the progressions. And that was a game where we were kind of happy with Jason Garrett's like that's where we weren't like livid with Jason Garrett with his offensive game plan.
I mean, you were most happy about Baltimore and Cleveland. I was most happy personally with the home Philly game and then week 17. I mean, those are the 2 games that I was most thrilled with, and then I'll explain why. But yeah, keep going.
But even if Saquon goes out again week 1, God forbid, involve your running backs a little bit, man. That's how you get yak. That's how you can turn big. They just flat out just did not involve their running backs in the passing game. And Dion Lewis was brought in for the sole reason to be a pass catcher for the Giants. Like, that is insane. Now, obviously, there's other games where it wasn't quite like that. But like that, it wasn't like I sought out like their worst game. I just went, let's go their most recent game, fighting for the playoffs, like everything on the line against an undisciplined Dallas Cowboys defense too, where involving your running back might help a little bit. And they just flat out just did not involve their running backs in the receiving game at all.
So here's like my question for you, because I even went and I looked back at Saquon's 2019 game log, and I was like, oh, did the receiving production kind of drop? And it did. Most of the games were 3 catches or above, which is honestly more than I kind of thought. But 3 catches or above, and there were some boom games like the Detroit game in 2019, and then the Washington game, the away game. That was definitely a boom game, because Pat Shurmur did a bunch of nice, awesome things, and where he was doing streaks down the field, and he had that big touchdown. Everybody remembers that. But Bobby, here's like my question for you. I have 2 questions. What is your expectation for Saquon Barkley receiving this year? And are you kind of looking into this as you want quantity? Like you want the ball just being given to him so he gets yards after the catch opportunities, or do you want quality opportunities, giving the ball to Saquon Barkley and receiving opportunities? So
quality opportunities. I don't want us being the 2019 Panthers where it was let's get the ball to Christian McCaffrey every play in the receiving game,
or the 2018 Giants.
Yes, that's not what I'm asking for, but give us some plays that are designed for that. Like, I don't care who you're like, and I get the Wayne Gallman criticism. I kind of led the train on it a little bit. But just give us a handful of plays where maybe the running back's the second progression, or you're working routes, and it's like, it's if the linebackers do this, get to your running back immediately. Give us 4 to 5 plays of those a game. Try and get not just simply a screenplay, like actual plays designed for your running back. Because it's just to not be doing that in the NFL now is crazy, and more so when Saquon's involved. And I don't think that 6 for 60 versus Pittsburgh was them like, all right, we're gonna get Saquon involved in the receiving game. There was one screenplay, but the rest of them were kind of checkdowns. And like two of them one was like a 3rd and 30 where they didn't convert, and another one was another 3rd and long where Saquon turned it into a crazy play. So
there was one that was a 2nd down too. 2nd 17, and he like converted the 1st down too.
Yeah. So
there was a stretch of time, Bobby Skinner, like early in the season. There was a stretch of time that Saquon screenplay and the yards after the catch that he got, that was like our most explosive passing play outside of Darius Slayton's 40-yard catch that happened week 1 too. So that was kind of fun. That was kind of interesting. Yeah, I kind of just went back to his 2018 game log. His week 2 against Dallas he had 14 catches on 16 attempts, which is bizarre. And 5 catches, 6 catches, 4 catches, then a stretch of 3 games in a row where he had 9 catches. I mean, so that is like a ton of that's a little too much. And I think
and that was Eli checking the ball down very quick. Like, I don't want that. I do not want that. I don't want Daniel Jones turning into that. But I do want some plays built for the running back, Saquon Barkley or not.
Yeah, so we're aiming for quality instead of quantity with Saquon Barkley in the receiving game, which I obviously can 100% agree with. I'm hoping that we look back at the end of the year, and I'm not asking for Alvin Kamara insane, like, and I'm telling you, it doesn't, like, when you say, oh, Justin, being targeted less, being like your average depth of target for a running back is less than a yard. That's absolutely nothing. There has to be running backs that target at least maybe 3-4 yards down the field. No, if you're being targeted 80 times, 90 times, 100 times in the receiving game, I think some people would project Saquon Barkley to be probably closer to 80. 100 was definitely like his rookie year numbers. But if you're running back that's being targeted like 80 times, you're largely going to be targeted close to the line of scrimmage. And at least that number being positive and not negative, not Saquon Barkley being targeted behind the line of scrimmage once he finishes this year. That's at least my ask. I want that number to be positive, the average depth of target, not him being targeted in the backfield. Right. So let's do some of that. All right, Bobby Skinner. Do you want to go defense or do you want to go offense? I think for us not to step on each other's toes, I think it would be best for me to go to defense.
All right, go to defense, and then you can do your offense one.
And then because I mean everybody knows my explosive play rant, but I have some other nuggets thrown in there. But let's go defense. So defense for me, someone other than Leonard Williams needs to contribute. So areas improvement, things that need to improve for the 2021 Giants. Somebody other than Leonard Williams needs to be a factor when it comes to pressuring the quarterback and getting to the quarterback. And I think this kind of perfectly piggybacks off of what Bobby Skinner wants to say. But let's just do this. QB hits, sacks, and pressures. Leonard Williams had 30 QB hits. The Giants in total had 107 QB hits. That's 28%. Leonard Williams had 28%. One man had 28% of the Giants' total QB hits from last year. Leonard Williams had 11 and a half sacks. Giants had 40 sacks as a team last year. That's 29%. Leonard Williams had 29% of the team sacks last year. One man.
And more than the entire outside linebacker group put together.
Correct. And I'll get to that next because I made that funny little graphic. Thank you, Bobby Skinner, for reminding me that I did that. And 42 pressures out of 165 total pressures that the Giants had last year. Leonard Williams had 25% of the team's total pressures. One out of every 4 pressure. Now, pressures are a lot easier to get than sacks, obviously, because they had 165, right? And that's the most out of, QB hit sacks. Pressures are relatively easy thing to do because it's the thing that you're going to produce most when you have a pass rush. 25%. One out of every 4 QB pressure was Leonard Williams getting to the quarterback. And, Bobby, you talked about out of all the edge rushers, the Giants edge rushers, 9 players combined, 9.5, and I said this before, but 9.5 sacks, 27 QB hits, 55 QB pressures. Leonard Williams had 2 more sacks. He had 3 more QB hits, but he had 13 less pressures. But again, 9 players versus 1 player. So that is my, the thing that, long story short, somebody other than Leonard Williams needs to step up this year, because if there is even a little bit of regression, which there really is no reason for there not to be, and we've talked about this.
Where regression in numbers, not like how good he is.
Right. Well,
Leonard Williams could be a better player than last year and have 8 sacks.
Well, true, but
that's what I want, because I hate the way some people use the word regression.
Right.
They're like, oh, is this not the exact same production? It's like, oh, is this, is this a whatever butterfly meme? Like, that's not like Leonard Williams can be a better player, be shedding blocks either, but just not get 11 and a half sacks. He can have 8 and be just a better football player at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, he could have 8 sacks. He could have 20. He can have 25 QB hits instead of 30, and then he could still produce 40 pressures, which is this the same amount that he had in 2020. And it's like, oh well, you still had a really good year. It's the pressure that you get on the quarterback. That is what I've always looked at. That is why I've always been a Leonard Williams defender, because he has gotten the pressure on the quarterback, and it has gone up since he has been a New York Giant. But if there is, even if the pressure goes down a little bit, because Leonard, that is an insane bananas year that Leonard Williams put up. And am I rooting for him to put up a similar year that he did in 2020, especially because he got the big money? Yes, but it kind of is unrealistic just to expect this is an insane year that he had as an interior defensive lineman. But how it could be maybe easier for him to maybe match those numbers, or his job can get a lot easier if just somebody else is contributing, whether that be Lorenzo Carter, who I'm worried about coming off that injury. If this is O'Shane, who is a guy that's kind of on the outside looking in, at least in my eyes right now, because he was getting low snaps to start off, or one of these rookies, even if one of these rookies situationally can come in
baby,
here.
We're looking at you.
Denigbo or Aziz or our friend Odenigbo.
Well. I thought I had it right with Odenigbo. I think it's Odenigbo.
We're gonna have to confirm this for PPPs. All right, so that's my thing. What are your thoughts? Whether you feel like you can transition?
I agree. That's why Azeez Ojulari is such a huge piece. And what is he as a rookie? Can you be and when I get into my defensive thing, one of my solutions to it is edge production, not coverage. Not like we didn't have edge production in 2020. We didn't. Like Lorenzo Carter looked good, then he got hurt. We had Kyler Fackrell was all right, but he was more like all right in the sense of like a do-it-all type player. O'Shane got hurt. Carter Coughlin, there's some flashes there, but he didn't give us solid edge production. Cam Brown, no. Like who gave us Marcus Golden? If they would have played him, he would have got some, but he didn't. He didn't play. So they just didn't have edge production. What's his Trent Harris? What's the other one? He's still on the team.
Jabal Sheard.
We just didn't have edge production. So if Azeez Ojulari can come in and give edge production, and I don't know what Lorenzo is going to be, but even Lorenzo last year wasn't like a dominant edge, but he had some, but he did have some big moments that helped. Edge production can heal a lot of wounds and make things look a ton better if we just get some real deal edge production. So Azeez Ojulari, man, like I kind of have, I hope my expectations aren't too high for him in year one, because I do kind of expect him to come in and be the best player at that spot, albeit he's only, just turned 21 last
That's
month.
my thing, man. That's my thing. Where he's 20 years old. He's 20 years old, and that's the thing where I'm like, biting my nails. Where you have like there is no choice but the edge room to be better than it was last year. Like I feel like it's almost like we talk about the offense. There literally is no way the offense can be worse than it was in 2020, and that is not us just being homer optimistic. No, it's kind of true. Like there's no feasible possible way that the Giants offense can be worse this year than it was last year. And I would like to think the same thing in the edge room. Now the defense can be worse than it was last year. And that's like a worry, in the back of your brain, like, oh, the Giants defense was so good. Are they just going to regress as a group? But you're like, well, if the edge group can literally just be something, because they were nothing last year. If the edge room can just be something, then that can hopefully compensate for maybe another group taking somewhat of a step back. So then the defense won't lose any track as a unit.
Yeah, and the Giants were like, they were high. Sorry, I just muted myself as I went to go search something. Let's see if I can find it on where like they were good. Like, what were they ranked in sacks?
I think they were ranked around middle of the pack, but they were top 10 in pressure percentage though.
It was like none of it was from the edge. Like the defensive tackle group had like 21 and a half sacks.
Well, like Bobby, Leonard Williams got over a quarter of the team sacks last year.
Yeah. And then, you got, Dexter sacks, Dalvin sacks, Austin
Blake
Johnson
Martinez.
throws one in there. The safeties ended up having some sacks. Like, so yeah.
Those slot corners getting in there. Yeah, that was a thing early in the season where he was sending them every week.
He should have had one more, but they're like, oh, he broke Kyle Allen's leg. It's not a sack. It was a sack, okay? He broke his leg. It wasn't doing it on purpose. But watch your legs around these safeties. All right. I was going to say you do your offense, but since we're talking about that defense, let me go through it. And I kind of have a full page on it. And this is going to come off kind of as a monologue, but I don't care. Because I even wrote it down kind of like in sentence form, which is I don't usually do. So how could the Giants defense improve? They were 9th and scoring in 2020. 9th. They only allowed 22.3 points per game after being the 31st ranked defense in 2019. They jumped up to 9th. And I know they added some good players, but they didn't add that many good players. But as good as they were as stopping points, opponents' drives ended in a score. They were in the bottom half of the NFL at 41.5%. So they were, I think, 17th or 18th in the bottom half of the NFL and allowing scores per drive. Well, how did this happen? Well, they were the 9th worst team on third down conversions at 44.6%. So how did they end up 9th in points? Well, guess what? They were second best in the NFL at stopping red zone touchdowns at 50.8%.
Good for you. I have the same stat.
Half the time they got into the red zone, they were stopping them from scoring a touchdown. That was second best in the NFL, which is just beautiful. But they're also 4th worst in time of possession per drive at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. But they also had the 4th least amount of drives, which comes with the time of possession thing. So they were truly a bend but don't break defense. Like the results at the end of the day are good, but that's hard. Like, you don't want to try and do that. And I do think the Giants attacked this offseason and being like, hey, we can't do the exact same things that we did in 2020. And that's why we've seen such a emphasis around man coverage. And that's why, like, how do you fix this? How do you get better as a defense? Well, guess what? Straight up man coverage, especially on third down with either too high safety, a high safety, a low linebacker, or blitzes. We didn't blitz and play man coverage. We had some blitzes, but they were not like pure, we're rushing 5-6 and we're trusting our guys on the back end. And the Adoree Jackson signing, Aaron Robinson, whatever he's going to be his rookie year, those were conceded efforts to be more of aggressive playing that man coverage. And not only on third down, but first and second down. Because guess what? When you do that on first and second down, what the Giants didn't, they played soft zone a lot, which I was a fan of because because of what the production was and how Patrick Graham was doing and disguising looks. And I posted a video about it earlier. But guess what? If you do that stuff on first and second down, guess what? We have incompletions and more sacks on first and second down, which what does that lead to, Justin? Third and long. And it helps you get off the field on third down, which the Giants didn't. Again, they were the 9th worst team in the NFL on getting off the field on third down while being the 9th best. And it wasn't like they were, ball hawks either for turnovers. They were good in that area, but they weren't just total ball hawks. And I know you want to talk about that. Or no, you don't actually want to talk about that.
Well, no, I mean, no, it's a desire where if I had an honorable mention, and now this is really being greedy. If I had an honorable mention of like, I really want the Giants to do this and improve on this a little bit. Turnovers per drive, they forced turnovers at like the 12th highest rate in the National Football League. I want them top 10 this year. I really want them to be. They have ball hawking guys in the secondary, guys that can, tip passes, that make plays on the ball. I mean, James Bradbury had some wild, crazy interceptions last year where he just literally robbed balls out of, what's his face from Chicago?
Allen Robinson.
He just robbed the ball out of Allen Robinson's lap. I want more turnovers this year because especially if we need an all hands on deck effort to give this offense as many opportunities as possible to score points and to put them.
Pressure creates turnovers.
Yes, and pressure creates turnovers. So
blitzing from blitzing more, and better edge production.
Yes. So that's kind of like a selfish want. Even though and I think even there's some, the analytics says predicting turnovers year in and year out for defenses is kind of random. But no, I think if the Giants have a philosophy of we want to get after it and we want to force turnovers, I think that's not random. Obviously what happens if a quarterback makes good decisions or not, that is random, but having that mentality of we want to go after the ball and we want to help this offense and we want to turn over the ball, that should be a ball hawking kind of aggressive mentality that this defense should have this year to be a bunch of dogs because they have the dudes to do it. So
don't want cats, want dogs. Wow. Before you do your next one, can you read the ad?
Yeah. So Bobby Skinner, DraftKings Sportsbook. I wish almost like all those Football Outsider stats that you were kind of talking on. Did you get them from Football Outsiders?
Nope.
No, because I have here touchdowns per drive, field goals per drive. Giants, they allowed touchdowns per drive at the 10th least rate, but they allowed field goals per drive at the 3rd most often. I mean, that is such a dichotomy, which that tells you that, hey, this Giants defense was kind of close to being bad, but they weren't. But they did the things that they needed to do this offseason to make sure that they will not be allowing touchdowns this drive. And I wish you can look and I wish you can bet on DraftKings Sportsbook with all these fun things: touchdowns per drive, field goals per drive, yards per drive. How many yards is Drew Lock going to get on the first drive of this game? I wish you can bet on these things with DraftKings Sportsbook. So maybe we'll introduce that. Maybe when Bobby Skinner and Justin Pennick, they get their own packages, we'll introduce those things. So DraftKings Sportsbook, it's my favorite sportsbook because it has allowed our company, John Boy Media, to do some fun bets. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, plenty of instructions for new bettors, nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family, they've been loving DraftKings Sportsbook. I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you courtside with a chance to turn $1 and $100 in site credits. That's right. Pick any basketball team that is still in contention. Bet $1, and if that team wins, you win $100 in site credits. There's other sports too. Hockey's going on. I think the finals in hockey are going on. Can you bet
Florida, Tampa Bay, Hockey Town?
Can you bet the Olympics? The Olympic trials is happening. My mother's been watching that. I don't know. You should. You should be able to bet the Olympics. People will go nuts over that.
I don't know.
You're not an Olympics guy.
My mother's been watching USA basketball. That's what I'm going for.
The synchronized diving. That's what my mother's been watching. Also, I'm shocked that the ratings are up for like this NBA playoffs. Like without LeBron, without Curry. I mean, I'm loving it. Good for sports. I love sports.
Well, because last year they was during the middle of football season.
Oh, that is true.
Like I'm an NBA head. I think the NBA Finals is the best sporting event in the world. Like more than the Super Bowl. Like the drama of the NBA Finals. And I just wasn't into it because it was in football season because football is king.
Is everybody getting hurt? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it sucks. Now Trey looks like he's all right, but it just sucks. And I gave a rant. I don't know if you were on this for that podcast or this was with the Grump. Where I was so like people were saying like, oh, you just deal with injuries. It's like
Oh, no, I was here.
You have to deal with injuries. Like if the Phoenix Suns win the championship, does it invalidate their championship? No, because you have to stay healthy. But the idea that the Nets were just supposed to just deal with it, like is just silly. It's just because you hate the Nets. That's why I say it, which is fine. Hate the
Silly.
Nets, but don't act like you're being logical when you think the Nets should just deal with all their injuries.
Silly, yeah. Giants were a relatively healthy team last year. So hey, Bobby Skinner, you didn't want to say you don't want to have you didn't want to have a worst fears episode. Yeah, besides Saquon. I'm worried that the Giants are going to have a weird year where everybody gets hurt. That's a fear of mine. It's a fear of mine. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOHNBOY when you sign up to turn $1 to $100 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game. And if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code JOHNBOY for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook credit. For details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana 109 with it. That was almost perfect. Almost killed it.
Almost perfect isn't perfect. Talk about the offense.
Let's talk about the offense, Bobby Skinner. So, I mean, everybody knows my spiel about explosive plays. Hey, Giants need to do more of it. They weren't really good at it. They need to do more of it. Well, I actually went back recently and I charted every single play of 20-plus yards from the 2020 season. Now, this is with my eyes, and I did it with Game Pass. So if there was one or two that I missed, whoops, I'm sorry, and I messed up. I'm not a computer. But I am estimating that there were 41 total explosive plays of 20-plus yards last year. 38 of them, if you include non-garbage time. So there were 38 relevant 20-plus yard plays in 2020. I don't have rankings for explosive plays of 20-plus yards, but I do have rankings for rates of passes that are 15-plus yards and runs of 10-plus yards. So overall, the Giants offense, they were 25th in the league in explosive plays. When you incorporate rates of passes of 15-plus yards and then the rate of runs of 10-plus yards. 17th in rushes of 10-plus yards. So they weren't bad. They actually got a lot better towards the second half of the season. We talk all the time about the transformation of the Giants running game. Kind of happened when they really started to believe in Daniel Jones, and he was a big part of it as well. 30th in passes of 15-plus yards. So if you're like, 38 explosive plays of 20-plus yards, most of them are pass plays, and they average maybe about two and a half per game. That's not that bad. Well, if you do compare it to the rest of the NFL, at least from 15-plus yards, it's not very good. Passing game was bottom of the barrel in the NFL. So the most plays of 20-plus yards in a single game, Bobby Skinner, was 4, and they did it twice. It was week 16 against Dallas at home, and then week 10 versus Philly at home.
And
now,
can I say something about that Philly game?
Yes.
That Philly game, which everyone's like, wow, the offense looked good. That was Daniel Jones being essentially perfect for every throw. I mean, there's like one pass from that game where it's like, oh, Jones screwed that up. Like he converted every single downfield concept. They converted that game. I think he went like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 in that game.
Yeah. And there was also a holding call for Andrew Thomas. That would have been Daniel Jones's second rushing touchdown, I think. I don't know if that would have been a 20-plus yard play, but I do know the first touchdown was a 20-plus yard play because I think it was like a 33-yard rushing touchdown. And that's honestly like I think that's my favorite play of the season. That Daniel Jones rushing touchdown against Philly, the first one that they had. It was awesome. Awesome. So note, they also did have 4 plays of 20-plus yards versus the Browns, Bobby, because I know how much you love that Browns game, even though it was a loss. But one of them came during garbage time. I mean, we were getting blown out for most of the game. So credit to Colt McCoy. I mean, the Colt McCoy-led offense produced 4 explosive plays of 20-plus yards. Three of them came when it was relevant football. Freddie Kitchens, baby. So here is, I think, simply just telling you who had the explosive plays and where and when and blah, blah, blah. I think it may give you a little bit of agita, but then I want you to think about, oh my God, this is the longest I've talked in a while. I'm sorry. Get it together. I'm okay. It will also give you hope for the future. It's like, think of like who this could be. Like, oh, maybe this could be Kadarius Toney. Maybe this could be Kenny Golladay. Maybe this can be Saquon Barkley. Hopefully Daniel Jones's legs are kind of healthy. So let's do this. I actually pop quiz, Bobby Skinner. Who had more explosive plays in 2020? Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton? Who had more plays of 20-plus yards?
I'm going to say Shepard because he had some running plays and he had some yak plays.
Yes, so you are correct.
But Slayton had more where he caught them 20-plus yards down the field.
Yes, so you are correct, and I did not expect that. I mean, I did this exercise, and especially towards the second half of the season, when Sterling Shepard kind of came back, he was hurt.
Like 4 in that Week 17 game.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, and it only implements the fact and my notion and my love for Sterling Shepard and how important he is and how good of a connection he has with Daniel Jones. So Sterling Shepard produced a total of 11 explosive plays of 20-plus yards in 2020. Darius Slayton produced a total of 10 plays of 20-plus yards in 2020. The only difference being Sterling Shepard's rushing touchdown versus Dallas Week 17. So both of them produced 10 plays of 20-plus yards in the receiving game. Sterling Shepard had one rushing play of 10-plus yards. Now, here's something that's fascinating. I did not expect this. I did not even have this theory. But, we talk all the time. I talk sometimes about Evan Ingram, inline versus outline and, the snap differential that he had. And, I want Evan Ingram to take more snaps out wide versus inline because that's where most of his interceptions happened. Every single Evan Ingram play of 20-plus yards in 2020 was him lined up on the outside. None of them came with his hand in the ground. Zero.
How many did he have in total?
How many did he have in total? I can find that out for you in 1 second. If I do a little Control F. 6.
That's interesting.
Yep. All of them came.
That's not the way it happened in 2019 either.
No.
So out wide, can that be like 3 yards outside the tackle, but standing up?
Yeah. Basically, now I'm sorry if I'm not getting the correct definition of what is out wide and inline. Basically, when Evan Ingram's hand is
means out wide for what you're saying.
When Evan Ingram's hand is not in the ground, that's what I'm talking about, and he's standing upright.
That makes sense.
And then I have one more just about the rushing game, and then we can kind of just talk about who fits in this and what, when, where, how. The Giants had 8 running plays of 20-plus yards in 2020, which is kind of pathetic. 4 of them were by Daniel Jones, 2 by Wayne Gallman, 1 by Alfred Morris, 1 by Sterling Shepard, Week 17. And that's kind of like my extended explosive
so 3
play.
by the running backs. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Now, ways to fix this. 1, the better players, Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay. 2, calling more downfield concepts. I charted it. Jason Garrett did not call downfield concepts for Daniel Jones. So simple enough. All right. Since we're running a little long, let's kick it to the interview with Jamar Chaney. I really enjoyed this interview. He was with the Giants this offseason as a coach. I guess you call it part-time through the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. He's a defensive coach at Mississippi State right now. So we he talked about, his time with the Giants. I thought it was a cool interview, man. And I'd love to see him back around and maybe getting a job as, a coach when, Kevin Sherrera takes a defensive coordinator job with, the Lions or something. I don't know. So here's the interview. All right. We now welcome on to the program. He's currently a defensive analyst for Mississippi State, assistant coach. He spent this offseason with the Giants in a program we'll talk about. Former NFL player of the Philadelphia Eagles, which we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because you got to pick on our guy, Eli. Jamar Chaney. Jamar, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, man? I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So I brought up to before the show, besides, you working with the Giants and having that, we also have another connection. You were a head coach and I believe played high school ball and grew up in Port St. Lucie. I'm about 30 minutes north of there in Brevard County. So we got a more than a couple connections. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I coached at Port St. Lucie. In Port St. Lucie, I'm from Fort Pierce, so that's a little closer to you. But
okay.
My wife is from Brevard, so I mean I know that area very, very well. She's from Melbourne, so.
Okay, I'm in Melbourne right now, so small world, which is funny because it's a New York Giants podcast, but I got a few listeners who are from around here, which is weird. Do you ever get back to the Florida East Coast, man? Because I know you're in Mississippi now. I get pressure to move up to New York, but I don't think I could ever leave this Florida coast, man.
Oh yeah, man, we love Florida. We haven't been back since last probably the 4th of July. We actually coming back this. We'll be back in probably 2 weeks, so it'll be our first time in over a year coming back. So
Okay, well, it's a good time. Now, also, I do want to talk about the the Giants and the coaching and everything. Um, what was your best NFL moment? Was it intercepting Eli? Because I always look whenever the Giants make a move, whether it's coaching, like, all right, is there any connection to the Giants? I look at yours, and you have an interception on Sunday Night Football and an upset win versus the eventual Super Bowl champion New York Giants. Was that like your top moment, or is there anything else from your career that you really look at?
Well, I mean, I was told, when I got up there, because I talked to a couple of guys, up there. I told them what my best memory was probably as a player, and they said, yeah, you might not want to share that with any Giants fans, but my best memory is what they call it, the Miracle in the Meadowlands that year. It was 2010.
Oh man, you were on that team. You were 2010 to 2012. That's brutal, man.
Yeah, that was actually my first start in the NFL, and I ended up having 16 tackles. And like the forced fumble that I forced, like it was like the third quarter, that actually started the run, the comeback. So I mean, I think that was probably my most memorable moment in the NFL.
Okay, so now I'm gonna have to go and clip that and just torture Giants fans a little more. But now for now you are on the good guys side. So you were part of the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship program. One, I looked up the website and did some research on it, but there's not a ton of what exactly is it and how did you get involved with it?
It just gives minority coaches a chance, the intern and things like that, to actually get their foot in the door and get in front of people and show them, what they can do. I think I kind of stumbled upon it as far from the NFL trust and those type things. And people just, word of mouth, people telling me about it. I actually did it with the Chiefs last year doing training camp, and then got the opportunity to do it with the Giants this year doing OTAs.
Okay. How did you get I saw like you take 5 teams you choose. How did you get hooked up with the Giants? And was it as simple as the Joe Judge Mississippi State connection, or was it kind of random?
Well, I would say both of mine weren't random. I mean, I played for Andy Reid, and I mean, he got me. I have a good relationship with him, so I was able to do it with the Chiefs, and I also have a good relationship with Joe Judge, and not just him, but it's like 7 other guys that's on the Giants staff that were at Mississippi State when I played. So I got a good relationship with those guys, and I think that kind of played a role in it as well.
What were some of the more like the guys that you were closer to that are on that staff?
Well, Joe Judge, I was really close with because he was the linebacker GA when I played. So, I had close contact with him a lot just because he was the guy, in the meeting room with us for 2 or 3 of my years. Amos Jones, he was actually my linebacker coach
Forgot about Amos.
My first 2 years at Mississippi State. Freddie Kitchens was the running back coach at Mississippi State. Ryan Holloman, Jody Wright, Blevins was the DB GA. I think I'm missing somebody.
No, you got, as soon as I asked that question, I was like, okay, Jody, Freddie, and then I forgot about Amos, which is cool. Something I do like about Joe Judge is that he really goes to the college ranks with a lot of his coaches. Not even just like Sean Spencer, he didn't have a direct correlation. So within the program, you're spending the off season with the Giants. What exactly is your role right now with the Giants? I doubt you're out there as like the main coach of whatever, but like what has been your role during this time?
I mean, just trying to soak up as much knowledge as I can. And one thing I like about how Joe does it, I mean, he actually gives the guys opportunity to actually go out there actually coach the guys. I mean, he preaches he don't want anybody just standing around out there. If you out there, you're out there for a reason. So coach the guys up. So that was probably the main thing. And they give you studies and things like that. To see what you can do, as far as evaluating players, breaking down defenses and stuff like that. So I mean, it's like the whole 9 yards. I mean, they got a really good thing going, and it's like a total all around program where they try to see what you can do, but also help you learn a lot of different things and how they do things there.
Yeah. Were you specifically with the linebackers or just kind of like all over with the defense?
Specifically with the linebackers, so I was with Kevin, the linebacker inside linebacker coach, and but with the whole defense pretty much. So a lot with Pat Graham. You said something about Spencer. and all those guys on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm learning pretty much bouncing around, but mainly with the linebackers.
Right. Who's a player that you like connected with or saw like, growing? I know they have, Blake obviously is the leader of that core, but you got Tay, who's a young guy and relatively new to the position. Carter Coughlin switching over to that. So was there a guy that you kind of connected with the most there?
I kind of talked to all of them. I mean, I probably would say, Tay Crowder, just because I mean, he reminds me of kind of like, my situation. He was 7th-round pick, I was 7th-round pick. He got to play a lot his rookie year and kind of shine, and I did the same. And just seeing, his athletic ability and the things that he can do, on the football field, if he continues to develop and continue to grow, he can be a really good player. And him and Blake can complement each other very well, in that linebacker core.
Yeah, man, it's been fun to see competent linebacker play as a New York Giant because it was kind of dry for a little while. And you notice with Blake is he allows guys to be themselves next to them, where Tay can kind of, he's inexperienced. He was inexperienced, but came in and just played fast and aggressive and next to Blake and behind all those big defensive linemen. It seemed to work out really well for him. Are you going to be with them throughout the preseason and training camp? I know that's a part of the program, but obviously you have Mississippi State duties as well.
Yeah, that'll be tough. I mean, I kind of got lucky last year when I did it with the Chiefs, just because I had kind of already accepted the training camp invitation from the Chiefs before I went to Mississippi, because I was at University of Florida before that. But so they let me continue to do that with the Chiefs, and I didn't do the whole training camp, just 2 weeks. So I won't be doing it during training camp. But like I said, I'm always in touch with those guys, man, and trying to pick their brain. And yeah, you never know what can happen down the road. So
yeah, man. I mean, what got you into coaching? Obviously, there can be some generic answers to that, but and there's obviously a natural progression from playing. But what made you want to go from, you didn't go straight to the NFL. You went to high school. Like, what kind of inspired you to take up that career?
Well, I always wanted to coach, man, at a young age, and I always wanted to start at high school. When I got done, just to give back to the community where I'm from, and help those kids out. And I mean, just trying to figure out your purpose in life and things like that. After football, because I love it and I enjoyed it, and I trained hard for it and worked my butt off to get where I got. But I kind of put 2 and 2 together, man. I wanted to do something that I was passionate about doing, which is football, and then also do something that, to me, it seemed like you helped giving back and kind of, sowing into these young men, So put 2 and 2 together, and that's a football coach. So that's kind of how I figured I wanted to be a football coach.
How do you like working with Coach Leach? I feel like Leach and Judge are both like football guys, but seem to be like kind of opposite personalities. How do you like working with Leach? He seems like the dude from The Big Lebowski, where Joe Judge is like attention to detail, like full balls to the wall every second of the day.
Yeah, they probably all told the officers, but I love working for him. He's an interesting man, and one thing about him, man, he lets his guys, do what they're supposed to do. I mean, he's a guy that's gonna let you coach, and he's gonna let you do your job. I mean, he's gonna get on you, you're not doing it, but he's a guy that believes in the guys that he hired, and he's gonna make sure, that you have every opportunity you need or everything that you need to be successful. So it's been great working for Coach Leach for the last year.
Did you go back to Mississippi State with Leach, or was that like before he came in?
It was kind of like with him. So they got hired in like February, and then the pandemic hit. But I didn't get to Mississippi State until like late July. So
okay, which is funny.
I was at University. I was at University of Florida before that. So I was coaching high school ball for 3 years. 1 year as a defensive assistant and 2 years as the head coach. Then went to the University of Florida and got the opportunity to come back to Mississippi State. At Florida, I was on the recruiting side of things. So the opportunity to come to Mississippi State got me closer to being like an on-the-field coach.
Right. Which is funny because Judge, the rumor was that was Judge's job, and then he ended up joining the Giants, which is pretty cool. Anything that I know you can't go too in detail, but like, what do you think this program like did the most for you? Was it learning under these guys, or was it just simply as making connections? Because we know that's how the coaching business works. It's not, you can be the most, the best candidate for something, but if you don't know the right person, sometimes you kind of get left out.
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, like I said, I think their program is really good. I mean, just because like you make those connections, man. They have a great staff. I mean, those guys are good guys, character guys that know what they're doing. It seems like the players like really like actually like vibe and connect with them. I mean, especially like a guy like you talked about, like Sean Spencer. I mean, those guys seem that they love him on the field. I mean, he's a good guy, good. He has a good personality, and just it's all around that staff, and those guys like just seeing the different coaches, like I said, like Spence or Coach Graham, how Joe interacts with all the guys. I mean, they got all different personalities on there, but I mean, just the opportunity to learn from them and try to to pick their brains and things like that. But like I said, also with how Joe runs it, he wants you to go out there and coach, so actually getting the opportunity, to be in the meetings and coach, and being on the field and coach, and actually interacting with the linebackers instead of just sitting there and just observe them all the time. Nothing wrong with that, but you kind of got the best of both worlds, doing it with those guys with the Giants.
I like that because I'll admit I was a little worried that I was going to come on and ask you, what was it like, and they're like, oh, we just had me cutting up film for a few hours. So I'm glad that they got you on the field and got some cool experience with that. So Jamar, I appreciate you giving us some time from your day. Good luck this year at Mississippi State. And hey, hopefully, or maybe we'll see what the future holds. Maybe you're back up here in Jersey and work with the Giants in the future. But regardless of what happens, good luck, and I appreciate you giving us some time, man.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Thank you, Jamar.
All right.
All right. Thanks again for Jamar for coming on. I guess that technically is our first NFL Giants coach interview.
Whoa. Hey,
he was technically, so how about that? Cool stuff. Make sure to tell him you enjoyed the episode with the Talking Giants guys. And also, if you have a good question for our 4th of July mailbag, which again, it's not like no current Giants football questions. You can put a Giants twist on it, but it's essentially asking us whatever you want, hypotheticals, whatever. Make it as uncomfortable as you want. I don't care. It's my favorite episode of the year is the 4th of July mailbag. Danny King will be with us too, so you can keep that in mind. Yeah. And also, Justin, I texted you about this morning. You didn't respond. We will have 2 new members of the Talking Giants family for that show.
Nope.
Yes. It's the easiest thing in the world to take care of.
Nope.
Yes,
can we get Danny to do it?
No, we will have 2 new members. Danny's in college, so he can't be going back and forth. We will have 2 new members of the Talking Giants family on Friday.
Why can't you have 2 new members of the Talking Giants family?
That's a guarantee because this is a partnership.
Why can't you have 2 of the new members?
Because you can't put these 2 members together.
Why are they going to kill each other?
Yes. Forget about it.
I can't pet them.
Stop. You're giving it away. We'll have 2 new members of the Talking Giants family on Friday for our 4th of July mailbag. We'll do the 4th of July mailbag. I enjoy it. I think it's a fun episode every year. So we appreciate you guys. We'll see you then. Enjoy your week. Until then, let's go Big Blue.